beautiful souls. As always, before I speak, we know that I usually don't know what I'm even coming on here to talk about. All I knew was major rash on my throat and I need a camera in front of me and I need to speak about something, whatever is like meant to come out of me right now. And the sun is just like flowing through me through this window right now. It's so beautiful. I think what's really like flowing through me has a lot to do with the feminine, which is really interesting because I feel like this is a topic that I admire and cherish so deeply, but it's something that I've almost allowed myself to be afraid of speaking about, and hence hence the throat chakra rash here. I feel like almost really sharing, which is like really freaky for me at this moment in my journey, but we're gonna do it anyway. Let's be brave and vulnerable. Like my journey with honoring the feminine, because it's something that takes a lot of courage and takes a lot of bravery to do in a world that is still primarily patriarchal based, and where it's where the systems that we're existing within are not supportive of women coming and speaking their voices or living in the ways that support their bodies and the natural rhythms of who they are and who they came here to be. And I don't even know where to start on my journey to really embracing the feminine, but what I can say is that I definitely grew up with a lack of feminine, not even just examples, but just lack of feminine energy completely, right? I grew up and I had a mother who was very wounded and very just not in the right mind, not in the right head. So I never really felt like I had a mother. It was more I was the mother from a young age, and she kind of left when I was about 9 years old. But it almost never really felt like she was there to begin with. And so this like lack of feminine energy continued to carry out through the rest of my upbringing, right? I was living with my father, who was then attracted to women who weren't really feminine whatsoever, who were very, very, very masculine. And so I was growing up as a woman in a house that didn't feel like there was any feminine energy. And so it just automatically makes you feel that I can't be like this. Like I can't be who I really am. It's like it's not safe for me to express and embody my feminine energy. I don't even see that around me. I don't even know what that is. I've never seen it, right? And I guess honestly just starting when you first get your period and not having a mom there, like not having access to a mom to tell you what's happening and to guide you through that experience in the way that a lot of women actually deserve to be guided through. Like this is a rite of passage. Like that is the goddess energy flowing through us. And so I feel like that is when I first really started to hate being a woman and hate being a girl. I hated that. I bled. I found it very shameful and very embarrassing, and it was something that wasn't talked about, and if it was labeled woman time, which it just the connotations of that is like that's what you have to deal with when you're a woman. And so growing up with that, I got my period at 11, so that's a decade ago. And so for 10 years feeling that, it really just builds up. And then growing up, when I further even lost that feminine energy was when I started to work a job. I actually started to work when I was really young. I went for my first job interview with somebody when I was still 14 years old. And at this time when I got this job, it was that I was to be working on Fridays, and every other Friday was the day that I'd go to my mom's house for 48 hours or less than 48 hours, and then I'd come home every 2 weeks. So that's 80 to 90 hours of the mother energy a month, which doesn't really feel like anything, But as I began to work, and obviously in a patriarchal work system, in a matrix system, I was then no longer able to see my mother on, those every other weekends. It became kind of a rare occurrence. I think there was 1 month where my boss was like, yep, you can have this time off to see your mom. And so I grew up the whole high school, right, grades 9 to 12, rarely seeing my mother. I probably could have counted on 2 hands how many times I saw her within that time period, which is where you begin to really develop as a woman. Like, it starts when you get your period, but I feel like high school is really where being a woman, you have like your first relationships, like all of these experiences where you kind of need that mother energy there. I didn't really have that mother energy. I just had a very structured, masculine kind of, put your feelings down, don't be yourself, just keep working, just keep working, just keep working. And so that's how I lived my life. And it never really stopped being like that until, honestly, until I started university, and I was like, this is bullshit. And I dropped out of it because I was like, I'm not doing this. This is not, like, I don't know if it has to do with the feminine, but there was just like nothing there for me. Like, I was a very smart person. I graduated high school with a 95% average. I was really smart. But it was just the whole concept of just reading this material and then regurgitating it down on, an exam every, few months didn't sit right with me. It just felt purposeless. And kind of after that, I began to develop a lot of like illnesses and sicknesses, which kind of pulled me away from work. I ended up having to quit my job because that I worked at for, all those years, because my body couldn't handle working the way that I was working. Like, I pretty much feel like I was working a 9-to-5 job almost through high school, because I was working, 4, 5, sometimes 6 days a week. And, from school at 8:30 a.m. to like 2:45, and then working at 4 till 9, it's like, that's a 9 to 9, So growing up with so much like patriarchy and masculine conditioning, who I really was got really, really suppressed. Like, it was non-existent. I didn't even know who I was anymore. For my period, I was taking maybe 10 medicines a day, and it tells you to take maybe 2 max, but it was like, I've got to do that, or else I'm gonna be in excruciating pain. I can't work, I can't go to school. Oftentimes I would be passing out, or I would literally be like throwing up, or like flu symptoms when I was on my period. And what that was really communicating was that the way that I was living was not in alignment with my body's natural cycles. My womb was trying to communicate to me in really dramatic ways. But I feel more so towards the feminine. It really became known to me, the feminine energy that I hold and desire to embody and express in this world. I feel really close to the time that I actually left my last partner, which was, I was definitely more masculine. I was very masculine energy throughout this relationship, which came from only ever being with women. From that lack of feminine energy, it attracted me to only being in relationships with women, and then being that masculine energy instead of the feminine energy, which is really what I craved. So pulling that kind of energy of just being like really overly masculine in relationships into a relationship with a man really suppresses that feminine energy, as well as my own feminine energies weren't necessarily seen or respected during that time, which was just a reflection of me not seeing and respecting them. But I feel like with my feminine awakening, it deeply was just like right in my face when I decided to leave my partner, not really feeling like I wasn't respected, and feeling like all of my worthiness was based in how a man saw me. And it was very evident that I needed to leave the relationship, and so I did, very, very dramatically, planes were included, experience. And I actually, right when I left this relationship, I flew back to Mount Shasta, which is a very feminine energy. Mount Shasta is like the mother, like people will say that it's the womb. And she wanted to hold me during this time of this breakup, because what that breakup brought for me was the understanding of my feminine energies. It brought me the understanding of the divine feminine. It brought me the understanding of, you know, my birthright to be unconditionally loved, to be supported, to be provided for, you know, all of these beautiful feminine traits. And it was really, really even further around here that I began to really acknowledge my womb and my period. And I had been for, you know, I think since the November before that, and this is about September. So for about a year, I was trying not to take any medication, or just small amounts on the days that it was really worse. But for those, you know, 4 months before that, I wasn't taking any medication. I was sitting with my womb, with the pain. And I needed actually at the time to be in a relationship with someone to be able to do that, because I could not have done that on my own, because that's how much pain was stored in my womb. And just kind of like moving on from that is when I really had this divine feminine awakening of the priestess, right? Like of being a woman and what that really means. And even trying to like talk about this right now is like very hard for me. Like I even noticed myself, like I moved backwards instead of like being right in the front, in the center, because it's something that's like I really play down. And like I'm just talking right now because I deeply feel like I need to be speaking. And I'm sure either people have clicked off from this, or if you're still on, then you're like, I relate to this girl, like I know exactly what she's talking about, this is me. And if so, like you're my people, so I'm glad you're still on here. But yeah, like I really began to work with different like feminine ascended masters. And again, like that's something that is really like hesitant to say, and a lot of that obviously comes from past life experiences and just growing up in a world where it's like Mary Magdalene isn't really talked about, like it's all about Yeshua, right? And so I began to really dive deep and be able to understand myself as a woman, and begin to, you know, love myself as a woman, because I had recognized at the start of the month that, you know, I hated being a woman. I absolutely hated it. And so I began to, you know, work with these divine feminine energies and work with different goddesses who are already like established in their priestesshoods. And that's when, you know, I began to be initiated within these different priestesshoods, and specifically the Magdalene line. And it's like, I literally, like, as I'm saying this, and this is why I'm someone who's so like passionate about speaking our truth, and that's why I'm fine coming on here and being like, yo, like I'm kind of afraid to say this right now, because like I want you to know that sometimes I still feel like that too, even after years and years of speech. Speaking about, you know, the goddess, and speaking about being a vessel for her, and embodying and embracing the power of our bodies and our wombs is something that is fucking scary when you're first getting started, when you're first waking up to being a divine feminine, when you're first waking up to, you know, these energies. It can be really intimidating and really like freaky. Like there's a lot of fears around it, and I still have them. I'm definitely still working through them. I definitely feel like I'm like at the start of my journey, but that's okay. It's definitely something that I felt like I really and fully was like embodying during my time in Mount Shasta, because it was safe. It was safe to be a woman there. It was safe to embody the divine feminine energy. Like anywhere you go, like you might overhear conversations about people talking about like Mary Magdalene or priestesshoods, or like I literally led a women's circle there. I literally led a Mary Magdalene priestess initiation. Like I'm walking through these places with roses, like I know who I am. It just feels so natural and so safe because the energy of the mother is so prevalent there. And when I followed the call of my inner child to actually leave Mount Shasta and come back to the ordinary world for the time that my inner child needed before she was ready to go back out again, was one of the most, I feel like, disheveling experiences that I've gone through, and it's something that I've not talked about really publicly anywhere, being someone who very, very evidently will share a lot about her personal life within her own business, because I want you to know who I am and, you know, who you're working with. I run my own business, courses and one-on-ones through my Instagram, and so I'm very blatant about the experiences that I go through, but coming back here is something I haven't opened up too much about, and I will eventually. I guess this is a little sneak peek. It's probably gonna be a really long video, but really coming back into a world that does not recognize the feminine. Like, if I were to walk down the street and like talk about Mary Magdalene and being initiated into priestesshoods, like I still feel like I would literally get like persecuted for this or something. I know that I wouldn't, people would just judge you, but like it just feels like that. It feels like it's just the thing that goes unspoken. It's the thing that nobody speaks about. Like, there's so many women, but we don't speak about it. It's like the unspoken thing of this culture. And so coming back into this world, and then also coming back and living with, you know, my father and his very masculine partner, as somebody who had just had a powerful divine feminine awakening, going back to that environment, because I had not lived in that environment for about a year at that point, just felt like I completely shut down again. Like, I completely stopped being who I am. Like, I completely cut out my feminine. I had to, it felt like, in order to survive. Not only that, but I actually had to shut off my feminine in order to survive in that environment. And you know, since a very cataclysmic experience in regards to, you know, the feminine energies around the lunar eclipse in the end of November, first week of December, when those energies are still there, ever since an experience that I had that I'll share at a later date, but it did have to do with feeling very completely rejected and abandoned for being feminine. And kicked out in a way. For the past, you know, December, January, February, not going into March feeling like this. But since then, I felt so fucking unworthy, and I don't normally swear. And so that one is like, you know, that's how I felt. But I felt all these like traits about being a woman. Like, it's not okay for me to be who I am. It's not okay for me to run the business that I desire to run. It's not okay for, you know, me to express myself in the way that I desire to express. I stopped like lighting incense very much. I stopped, you know, saging very much. I stopped doing all these things that are so intrinsically feminine and intrinsically spiritual, like connecting into myself. Like all these things that are really feminine and really dear to my heart, I stopped doing because of the fears and the pressures of this world. Because of the fears of, you know, if I'm embodying my feminine, then nobody's gonna like me. The fears of, hey, I'm running this whole other business that has nothing to do with the feminine. How am I supposed to run my business now if I'm not that same person, you know? So it's really powerful when you go through these divine feminine awakenings and awakening to being a priestess and being within a priestess lineage, which is something that I really desire to speak more about. And I've definitely gotten a lot of channeled ideas and offers and, you know, experiences to put out there and provide for those who are ready and willing for this. But the thing is, I was not ready or willing for any of this stuff yet. But I really feel like, you know, if you resonate with the divine feminine and you're learning anything, or you're just interested in it, or you hear the calls of your womb, it's like we're meant to not ignore these calls anymore. Like, that's the call of the goddess. And something that really resonates with me deeply, 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 and I've been doing some work towards it, and it was actually the scariest thing I ever did within my business, but really understanding the cycles of our body as well as how we work. And this is something that I really want to get a lot more into and really, really help people out with, is that we are, as women, not meant to be working 9 to 5. Like, that is not how our, like, not even just as women, but as men with feminine energies too, we're not designed to be working 9 to 5 jobs 5 days a week and then, you know, the weekend. Like, that's not how our bodies are designed every single day of the month. Like, one, we go through, as women, we go through like our period cycle. So we're not always super high energy. We're high energy for about a week, like in the whole month. And especially for myself, I'm so deeply in it. And every year it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper connected to these cycles, that I genuinely only experience a high level of energy for, you know, 1 week in a month. Like, that's not in the winter. It's like, you know, not like that at all. And the thing is, we're made as feminines to feel like shit because our bodies can't do what patriarchy wants it to do. It's something I've really had to come to terms with, and it's something that, another thing that I guess I don't really speak a lot about online because I feel like it's a weakness, but I would like to turn it into a strength, is, you know, my body and my body cycles. I've gone through a lot of illnesses and a lot of painful experiences with my body for my entire life, and have definitely had experiences where I can't work, I can't do things, I can't do anything because I'm so tired and I don't have energy and such. Like, I've definitely gone through it with that, and it's like, we are kind of made to feel bad when we're not in like our highest energy. But the thing is, as a woman, and especially as women, we are connected to our cycles, the moon cycles and the cycles of Earth. So during the winter, we're not meant to be rushing and working all this time. Like, this is a time for introspection, you know, inner healing, rest, rejuvenation. Summer is when we're meant to be going, you know, all at it. And the more we resist these cycles, the more we pretend like we're not cyclical, the more we pretend like we are linear, the more we're gonna burn out, the more we're gonna feel unfulfilled in our lives, and the more we're literally just gonna hate our lives. Like, point blank, that's what living linearly as a cyclical woman does. It just makes you hate your life. It turns you into the, you know, wounded aspects of the feminine. It makes you really depressed. It makes you really controlling and manipulative. It just doesn't support you. And so then you can't support yourself and support your feminine. Yeah, I have a lot to say about that and like the cyclical nature, as opposed to linear and such. I could talk about that specific little blip of this all for like ages. But I'm probably gonna come off of this video now because I feel like I talked a lot. And it was definitely really vulnerable, and I'm not sure like how much of this content is stuff that like you can take away and be like, I'm gonna, you know, put that in right now. But like, I hope that this met the people that, you know, are also really needing more of this feminine energy, or have maybe grown up without the feminine energy, or maybe have had a lot of illnesses within their body, or have really, really, really low energy and just kind of feel like they're alone, seeing people just working all the time and just putting out all this stuff all the time, and they're like, how do they do it? I have energy for like 30 minutes in a day in the winter. I just want you to know that you're not alone. And if you feel that way, please comment below, because I've never met anybody else who, you know, has the same type of energy levels as me. But I know that, you know, that's not a weakness. That's actually like a link to what I'm meant to be doing, you know, within my mission here. And if this video did help you, again, like, I'd love to know in the comments. I'm really, really grateful whenever you guys comment. Even if I don't comment back, sometimes I'm like afraid, but I'm trying my best to get back to you guys now when you comment. I really appreciate hearing your feedback. And if there's any specific like feminine topics that you guys have that you want me to talk about, I'd be really grateful if you commented that as well. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, my @ is Sovereign Sarah. I'll also put that in the description box below. I'm going to be beginning to post a lot more of this content and just letting go of my fears. And yeah, see you in the next video.